Next, I want to drop that piece of plywood back in, the one that goes behind the seat here. And I need for it to meet up really exactly with these edges of this pipe that runs around the top. So if I go to the right view, one thing that's really important is I've taken the time to make sure that these are perfectly straight. Because if you think, a piece of plywood has to be perfectly straight, right? So from both the top and the sides, we need to make sure that this stuff is exactly planar all the way across. Otherwise, our piece of plywood will never fit properly. Once I have that, then I'm going to select all of this stuff and hide it just for the moment, just to get that out of our way. And now we can, as long as this is clean, this should work really well. So I'm going to select this edge here. And actually, let's just turn on symmetry temporarily. I'm going to select the bottom edge and then select up one edge. Hit the up arrow a bunch of times. And it doesn't matter exactly how many. You'll see why in a minute. Essentially, I'm going to bridge this across, and this is going to be a pole right up here. So just bring it up wherever you think looks about right. You'll see what I mean in just a second. Let's go to Turn Off Symmetry. Go run the Basic Tools Bridge tool. And because we have this auto connection feature as of 801, you click in the viewport, and that's going to join that stuff right up at the top. You'll get exactly the correct number of bridge spans all the way across. Oh my gosh, that is awesome. I love the auto bridge. So good. It is going to mess up the bottom here, though, so we can fix that. Let's just select the bottom. Polys here all the way across. R for scale. I'm going to go to the front view and click down lower. And then we'll just scale those down on the Y to 0. And because this is a flat plane, it really doesn't much matter if this is very uniform or not, but still, we'll just go ahead and select some of this stuff. And let's just start with these middle guys. Shift up arrow to expand that selection, because that's the stuff that we need there, I think. Okay, so now I can take those and Control X to cut them out, so it's as if they were never there, and then Control V to paste them back in. That way, these guys fit perfectly. They're exactly the right place, but they are a separate chunk of geometry that we don't need to worry about. Now we can just scale this in ever so slightly because I don't want the edges to meet up. And I'm going to contract my selection so we don't have everything now. Go to our Deform and Smooth tool. And if I smooth this out, it should even out this geometry, but since it's planar, it's going to stay planar. That's one of the nice things about planar geometry. The Smooth tool will just work, and you don't have to worry about it messing things up. So now we have a nice, even piece of all-quad geometry that we can use as a piece of wood. So we can select this edge loop, the whole boundary, Z for edge extend. I'm going to pull that back. It's going to round that edge more than I want to. So I'll select this edge loop again. We need that one. I'll also need this one, and I don't have symmetry on, so I'll have to select the other side. And then we'll add Shift W to add an edge weight to that. And we'll just weight that right up to where it looks nice and crisp. And that is going to be our piece of plywood. I can hit U for unhide. Now we've got everything in here. Now you may notice that things are starting to perform a little bit slowly for me. That's because I do have about 1 million polygons in this mesh item at the moment, just this mesh item alone. That is thanks to the Catmull-Clark subdivs. If I just do regular subdivs, then it's only 258,000 polys. So you can see why some people would very much prefer to use the traditional subdivs for performance reasons, if they don't care so much about the smoothing quality. So I am going to stick to Pixar subdivs. I just wanted to point that out to you. If you need to improve your on-screen if you need to improve your performance, your GL performance, then you can always head to the item, look in the item properties, set that subdivision back down to 2, that subdivision level back down to 2. That brings my GL count down to 258 again. And we can set our render level up to, say, 4. That way it's only going to be visible, the detail will only be visible when you render, but in the viewport we get this nice low poly cage. And actually I'm curious, if I set this subdivision level up to 3 for regular subd, and do that. How many polys is that? Yeah, 581 versus a million for the same subdivision level. So, yeah, that kind of backs up what I'm saying. Just want to make sure I'm not lying to you. Okay, so Catmull-Clark subdivs, and there we go. We have our piece of plywood. Now I'm going to do the same thing for the front here. We just need to add a grill, which is basically the same process. I should be able to start from this polygon right here. Let's just, I'm actually going to start, I think, with this edge loop. Let's just grab that edge loop and copy it. Go back to our body panel mesh and paste it in, just as a starting point. If I go to the front view, that fits quite nicely. Let's actually go to the top view for a moment. I'll select all this stuff and just H to hide it. Go back to the front view so that's just looks a little bit nicer. Turn symmetry on for the X. Basic tools, snaps and precision, and I can use drag snap, which just makes it very easy to kind of move these edges around. Just got to be careful not to snap it to things, because obviously since it is drag snap, it is going to snap to stuff. I'll turn off my smoothing while I do this because as you can see here, when I was dragging, I made these edges overlap with that other geometry, and I didn't really want to do that. So just got to pay attention to that stuff as you work. With that fitting a little bit better, now we can actually start to set up some geometry. So I'm going to get in here and just drop in a polygon by hitting P for poly here in the viewport. And that's going to create a polygon all the way down. Let's split this right down the middle. So we have a center poly there to work with. And now we just need to break this into quads. So we can start here. So these guys are quads right here. That's okay. And just work our way down with the edge slice tool, C for edge slice. Shift drag here. We'll just work our way down, dropping in quads as we go. Now down here I'm left with an n-gon, which is not ideal, but I can always fix that just by deleting an edge. And that gets us where we need to be. So now we're all quads. We can smooth that out. That looks okay. We might need to add more geometry to this later to make it fit a little bit more nicely. So actually, let's just go ahead and do that. We'll select this and D for subdivide so we have more geometry to work with. Go back to that front view. And now we can jump in and just really tighten this up so that it matches pretty well. And if I unsmooth it, you'll see that, because we have a denser mesh, it's pretty safe to do this in the smooth mode. And I think this stuff up here is probably okay. Just kind of tweak it into place. And that should be all we need. Now this wants to stay flat, but let's go ahead and recess that slightly. Now for this to look right, we're also going to need to roll this the edge of this piece of brass back. So for the moment, I'm just going to hide this stuff for a second. Let's turn off symmetry. Grab this edge and this edge. Just work our way all the way around here. And I'm going to do Z for edge extend, click in the viewport, and then just scale it in a little bit. No, that's too much. Just a little. There we go. And then I could pull that back some. Z for edge extend, pull that back. And then I'll just take this outer edge and Shift W to add an edge weight to it. So we just kind of harden that up a little bit. Probably that one too. Then U for unhide. That looks pretty good. And I think we probably do need to do that on the bottom as well. Just take these edges and we can move those down some. Perfect. So we'll do that same thing on the bottom. Let's just select these edges around the bottom. Z for edge extend, click in the viewport, and then I'll just scale those in slightly. Move them up a little bit. Z for edge extend and pull those back. And, oh, yeah, that should be right. Take this edge loop and Shift W to add a weight. And this one as well. And we didn't scale this one in quite as much, so let's go to the front view. R for scale. We'll scale that in so that it matches the top a little more closely. There we go. That looks pretty good. Let's move that back. There we go. That matches up pretty well. Nice. So that's closed off. We got a piece of plywood back here. We are looking good, folks. One last thing. I think we want to add the floor in. Let's go back to our body topology mesh. We'll just take this and copy it and just paste that floorboard in. And that should be all we need to do. Let's just smooth this so that it matches the smooth state of everything else here. And now we can turn that off. Excellent. Our car body is just about complete, folks. I think we're ready to move on to something else.